have been I've been going back and forth on writing this, shooting this, sharing this for like years. I kept all of this to myself for a long time. Okay, Band-Aid ripping off. My past is very scary to me. I think sometimes, it's just so big, and there's so much like shame and personal guilt and like personal blame, that it is like this giant thing, right? That's always been with me. It's always kind of there. So basically, it is that I've been in a couple abusive relationships, several, and been raped twice. So that is heavy. It's heavy. It's something that a lot of people don't know about me. I have a lot of friends that are going to be shocked because it's just not something I've ever talked about. I waited to have this conversation or to put this out there publicly. I kind of always knew, I think, that I wanted to, because writing has really always been my process. That's how I've gotten through a lot of stuff. And, if you've been reading the blog for a long time, then you know that is how I process things. I will write about big things happening in my world, and it's how I get through things. And this, though, is something I've never sat down to write about. In college, I had to write a paper on the turning point of my life. That was our assignment, was write about the turning point of your life. And I had a great professor. He was really great at teaching us how to pull things out of your story and write things real descriptive and everything. I think, I feel like he helped me get to a better level in my writing than I was prior to his class. So I'm super appreciative. But this paper was so hard to write. Because I knew immediately when he assigned it what the turning point was going to be, and what it was at that moment in my life. And it actually still is, I think. I don't think anything, it's hard to dispute that the relationship when I was a teenager and the rape when I was a teenager is definitely what was the biggest turning point in my life. It forced me down a different road. So there was no doubt in my mind that's what it was going to be that I was going to write about. All papers, all writing assignments were very easy for me. I could get an assignment. I remember I wrote a 14-page paper the night before it was due once, because it was on a topic that I could write about. And it's just kind of always been something for me, right? Writing. So this paper, though, took me a month. And I remember I would write a little, and then I would get up and I'd go throw up. And then I'd write a little bit, and then I would have to leave the computer. It was very hard for me to proofread it and to read back through it to see what I had written, to then get, to write some more for the paper. It was definitely very hard for me to do, which is how I knew it was supposed to be. And I was writing, what was the turning point for me. I wrote it. I remember that paper was written from the perspective of me being in court and testifying. That's the situation that I chose. And we can get into that one later. But I I knew that this was always something that I wanted to share. Um, I just wasn't sure how. And um, I mean, I'm 42 and it still hurts. It still is something that I'm very nervous about putting this out, um, for a lot of reasons. But um, the biggest reason that I waited was because there were a few people that I wanted to make sure that I told first. I did not tell my parents until this past like year. um, so that was horrible. In case you were wondering, having that conversation, it felt like I know I didn't disappoint them, but that's how it felt, like they got hurt. So that was rough. I wanted to tell both of my sisters. So I did that also this past year. And then also I was kind of waiting. I think subconsciously I was waiting for my daughter to become old enough to hear it from me before I told anyone or before I ever wrote about it and published it. I never wanted her to read it from somebody else or to hear about it from like a friend or a third party or a friend of mine or something like that. Like she needed to hear that from me. She needed to have that conversation with me. And I think the reason that everything is like bubbling up and I can't keep it in anymore, and the reason that it was this past year that I was telling everyone and going through this whole thing is she's now the age that I was. So it's like looking at my past self. Although she is definitely more 40-year-old me in a 15-year-old body, whereas like 15-year-old me was very I was much different from her. But anyway, I wanted her to hear it from me. So now that those 5 key people have heard it from my mouth, now everybody else can. So this is super exposed, but there it is. And I know that is I don't like the idea of it being a driving force in my life, but it is definitely in the car all the time. And kind of always has been. Did that without getting super blotchy. I'm super proud of myself. So now I'm going to go through the terrible task of writing my real history and my real stuff. Not sure if I'll ever share the whole thing. I'm not sure if I'll share everything or any of it. Might just post stuff, write things somewhere. I really don't know. I have no plan. The thought of writing everything down makes me super nervous. It's not really that like I guess the nerves really come from just being really really scared to put that out, because once it's out there, I could be judged against it. Like right now, you don't know the whole story. So, your judgment or your opinions are only like partial. They're just based in whatever you're assuming. So there's like that. It's this like mental justification for me. Like, I don't care what you think because you don't know the whole story. Once I write the whole story, you're going to have a better chance of judging. And there is so much like self-inflicted pain and pressure on that and judgment. Like no one could judge me more than I have judged myself about these things that have happened. And I feel like, how could I have let this gone on? How could I have just, how could I? And I know that like the logical part of my brain knows that I didn't let anything happen. That's not the right, way to say it. The semantics are wrong there. But that's how it feels. So, and then also I know with these kinds of situations, I know that victim shaming is real. Victim shaming hurts. And it's kind of like a knee-jerk reaction, right? Well, surely you must have done something to bring it on. And, I did that to myself for a very long time. So that part is scary too. Like, what is it going to look like once this all goes out? And then it all goes out. Like, it's this like big salacious surprise. I already told you what happened: abusive relationships and rape. But I don't know. So funny enough, I actually didn't ever termed it rape until the first one I'm talking about, until I was in college writing about it. That is when I added that into my testimony. So I ended up in court. That is real. It was traffic court, whatever, for a car accident that we were involved in. And I was kind of testifying against it. But in my story, I wrote that I talked about the rape too, because they had asked me about my past, like a history of our relationship that had led up to this car accident. And so in my written story for school, I wrote about all of the things that had happened in this relationship that led up to this moment. And I included details in my paper that I did not include in real court. And one of those was the rape. And in my paper, I referred to it as rape. And I think writing it and sitting down and like being forced to stare at it on my computer screen was what really made me realize that is actually what happened. I had been in, I don't even know. I don't know. I blocked that part out of the relationship for so long. And then, it was years later when I wrote about it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, that's what happened. The second one is oddly easier for me to talk about, but it's a lot scarier for me to think about. So the second incident was when I was a junior in college and was out at a bar. I got drugged and I don't remember anything other than like, hey, do you want to have some beers with us? And then that was it. The next thing I remember was like kind of opening my eyes, being in some random apartment, completely naked, somebody laying in the bed next to me. And then it kind of like goes in and out. It gets dark. And then there's like just kind of like flashes. I think my brain will not let me look into this moment. And so the next clip that I have from that night is being in the bathroom, and my best friend who I'd been out with that night, she was there too, and she came in and I just kind of remember being like, where are we? And then nothing, and then it goes totally black, and then the next thing I remember is being at my house. So no clue how I got to this person's house, no clue who this person was, no clue where I was in the city, and no clue how I got home, and no clue what actually transpired. You can wake up and know that you've had sex, and that was definite, but how many times and how many people, that part I don't know, and that's the part that scares the crap out of me. The other part that scares the crap out of me is like, so much worse could have happened. I remember nothing. The entire night is black, except those two flash memories in that weird apartment. And it just, it scares the living crap out of me. So that one, I just, thank God for keeping me alive, for keeping my friend alive, and getting us out. But that's about it for that one. The other one I vividly remember, clear as day, but I don't like to talk about that one. And so those are my two experiences. And I know I didn't even talk about the first one. Same story. Teenager, dating, fooling around, wanting to, but not wanting to, and then deciding really don't want to, and crying, please don't. And then, on the floor of the bedroom while crying, staring out the window at the palm trees. So that's the first one. And the first one, being so young, I think that that's what made me feel like I had no voice. Like it, like almost instantly made it where, this is the unfair thing about rape. This is what people who have never been through this don't know, and why it's just sucks. It ruins somebody's whole life. Okay. It's been more than 25 years, and this is what it's doing to me to talk about it. And it like almost instantly made it where I felt like my voice was not going to ever be heard. It made it feel like or it taught me that my feelings don't matter. I'm less important than anybody else, somebody else. So there's always going to be somebody else who's more important than me. And that sucks. So, and that has run through my whole life since then. And I know for sure it was because of that moment. So, I hate it.